All right. Here we are on another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Hey, Peter.
Well, good morning, Bill.
How are you this morning?
I think I'm okay.
We've been chatting already. We got a little bit of technical issues here. Hopefully we can get through with it, your microphone and stuff. Episode number 212, Peter.
Wow, it's a lucky number.
It is?
I just said so.
I'll have to go out and play lotto today.
Yeah, bet 212, 212.
212.
I've never bought one of those. You know what? I bet on one thing, Bill. One thing. Me.
Yeah. Okay.
If it doesn't work out, I just blame me. If it doesn't work out, I just keep working. I just don't stop.
All right.
Get it one day.
Today's episode is called Isolating and Removing Fear Quickly so you can do creative real estate deals effortlessly.
Okay.
I'll do that again. Isolating and removing fear quickly so you can do creative real estate deals effortlessly. So here we go. Creating real estate investing has a tremendous, what the hell did I write here? Oh, here we go. I got to read my own writing, Peter.
Good luck.
Creative real estate investing has a tendency to scare many away from great opportunity and financial independence so much that I need to take the time to help folks that struggle with more fear than action. This podcast is solely designed to help those folks isolate the fear, then work on how to make it melt away like butter on a Las Vegas sidewalk at noontime. Stop trying to cope with these unwanted ghosts and goblins and get control back so you can get yourself free using real estate. At the end of the day, our natural behaviors will dictate how successful each of us become or don't become. So if you find your type of personality keeps you from building up or mustering up what it takes to make real estate deals so you can increase your income in life, this episode is exactly what the doctor ordered. Just like in the famous movie Ghostbusters, we will hunt down those goblins and use our secret weapons to make them vanish.
Bill, can we cross streams?
Why?
Well, that's how they do it. They take out their ray guns.
Oh.
And when they cross streams, it gets potent, like
Okay.
triple potent, you know?
Okay.
It's really hot.
All right, good. So let's jump right in.
Yep.
Anxiety and fear makes your stomach drop, your neck tighten, your whole body tense.
Ouch.
Right? This comes quickly and easily, especially if you have to talk to or negotiate with a seller in real estate. We don't need to talk about fear and anxiety showing up. It just happens, Peter. It just, all you got to do is just tell somebody you got to call a prospect and they like freeze.
Hey, Bill, I know people that won't call for a pizza. I'm just, no, you call. Jesus, it's pizza.
Exactly. So it just shows up no matter what happens. But instead, what we got to talk about today is we have to talk about what do you do when it fills your days and it troubles your nights.
Yeah.
This podcast is an attempt to help you stop dealing with worry and anxiety on your own so you can gradually yield to hope, peace, and start doing these creative real estate deals now that you only dream of.
So you got a cure for the shakes?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess so. The anxiety for sure. So let's just jump right in. We're going to go at it today because we got a lot to cover. So let's get started with number one. Money.
It's just money.
Or not having enough to do a deal. I hear that a lot. Right? So
most people never start because, I don't have any money.
Right.
Well, we're not telling you to go down to Home Depot and buy one. We're talking about something else.
Exactly. So Home Depot, you get the pawn home, go to Home Depot to buy a home, blah, blah, blah.
Isn't that where you get them?
That's a bad joke on my part. This seems to act like a solid deal stopper for most in the beginning, which is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
If you're like most, you have fallen into the real estate mafia trap.
Ah.
Right? So the real estate mafia is episode number 90 of this podcast series. And what I talk about is what happens at a closing and who shows up. And usually who shows up is the realtor, the banker, the attorney or closing agent, the insurance guy, and the title clerk, the title guy.
Yeah.
Basically, the realtor is there to bring you a lead or bring you the buyer. That's all their job is, which is a big confusion in the industry. Most people think that a realtor will bring you more than just a buyer. They'll hold your hand and bring you through the transaction, which is not correct. The banker will bring the money, right?
Yeah.
The attorney or the
closing
agent will prepare the documents so that if the money doesn't get paid, well, maybe Guido's going to come out and bang on the door, and maybe he won't break your legs, but he'll definitely break your spirit.
Hey, watch the analogies.
Right? And then the insurance guy sets up the protection.
Hey, what'd I just say?
and the title guy, well, the title guy's got a special deal. The title guy, they sneak him in there, and you don't even realize it in most closings. And it costs in an average closing around $1,500 to $2,000 for a closing agent. You know what the closing agent? I'm sorry, the not the closing agent, the
title guy,
the title insurance guy.
Yeah, he's supposed to make sure the title is good, right? Insure it.
Yeah. What he is he's actually the insurance for the legal beagles. So if they do the title wrong, or if they do something wrong or incorrect, and 6 months from now or 60 years from now, they come back and say, oh, your attorney didn't do this. Well, the attorney walks away scot-free.
Yeah.
Because your name's on the title, you're in the chain of title, you have to fix it. So isn't that funny that the attorney gets to make a mistake and you have to pay $2,000 for an insurance policy in case he makes a mistake?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to fix it. The title company will fix it. Pretty bad. That's why I call it the real estate mob. Okay? The real estate mafia.
Yeah.
Okay? And just in case you're curious, Peter, while I'm at my sister's house, my brother-in-law has been watching The Sopranos. We're on season 6. So I've got my head full of this mafia stuff.
Most Italians won't watch that stuff for whatever reason. Too close to home or too far from home. We don't watch it. We don't need to.
So, anyways, my point is that I'm going to just go back to how I started before I got on this mafia thing. So if you're like most, you've fallen into the real estate mafia trap, thinking that this is the only way that you can do a transaction. One that makes you believe that the only place to get money is from the bank. They want you to believe this so that they can keep their fees alive and so they can make all their money. I mean, anybody listening to this podcast right now that has a mortgage, I do this when I'm in a live room, right? It's like, I pick somebody out of the room and say, hey, you got a mortgage. Yeah, okay. Well, how much did you pay for the house? Oh, we paid $180,000 for the house. Oh, you did you? And I'll bet them. I'll bet them a cigar. I bet them a $15 cigar. Like, you want me to bet that you did? I'd like to place a bet with you for a $15 cigar that you didn't pay $180,000 for your house. Yes, I did. Okay, you ready? What you got to do is take your monthly payments, right, without the taxes and insurance, and multiply it by the amount of months or amount of years, the amount of months and then the amount of years that you're paying for that mortgage, and that's how much you paid for the house. So even if you put down $10,000 and took a mortgage for $170,000, and you got $1,000 a month principal and interest payment, and you paid that for 30 years, it's 360 payments. That means you paid $360,000 for that house, not 170, right? Most people don't think of that. So you closed for $170,000 170, but you didn't pay 170.
No,
Right?
so anything like that. Yeah, car, anything you buy like that, but you pay for the car. But by the
Right.
time you're done with payments, it's more.
Right. So the point that I'm making here is that you have to be careful with what you understand. Okay. So like Ron LeGrand says, you think education's expensive, try ignorance. And that's the way most of the country is. They don't understand money. They don't understand how this works, all that kind of stuff. So most think the best place to go is to get the money at the bank. And the banker wants you to believe this because look how much money they're doubling their money. They're doubling their investment.
Oh, that's
Right?
what they live. That's what they live for. My son worked at a bank. All they did was hammer him to sell mortgages. He wanted to be a bank teller.
Right.
Take people's money, give them their cash. It was like, sell a mortgage today, sell a mortgage today. They just drove him crazy. That's not what he signed up for, but that's their thing.
That's how they stay alive.
To make money. You know what? We talk about infinite return on some of the way we do deals, right?
Yep.
Well, what do they have? How much do they put in? Nothing.
Yeah.
Click a button, get money from Uncle Sam, and collect interest on thin air. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Infinite returns.
So what I'm trying to make the point here is that what most don't think of is the other two places that you can get funds, right? Okay, so let me back up. So one that makes let me back up. I lost my notes here. So most people think that you get the money from the bank, or you can get money from hard money lenders, which by the way is a pseudo bank, right? It used to be private lenders that would get points and they would lend their money, and the difference between a bank and a hard money lender used to be that you didn't need your credit. They would do asset lending instead of track record, or credit score lending. Like, a credit score is to let people know, what you've done in the past. What are your normal habits? Do you pay on time? What do you do? What kind of a person are you? But nowadays it's not true. The hard money lenders are pseudo bankers. They check your credit now. They want to have a down payment now. They want all this other stuff. They'll only lend up to 70%, all that kind of stuff, right? Or you can use private lenders, and the difference between a hard money lender and a private lender is usually somebody that has an IRA or has some sort of a credit line or something like that, and they'll lend without points. So it's common that people think of banks. The next most thought of is a hard money lender, and then the next most thought of is a private lender. But what most don't think of is the other two places you can get funds that can actually do real estate transactions you're doing. They don't use these two. They don't even think of them. They're right under their nose. Yeah. And that's the seller and the buyer. Right? So more to the point, why do you need money anyways? Right? If you're doing lease options and getting the deep deals that I'm sorry, my VA's got my attention. She keeps sending me texts. I don't know what she's doing. I know she's asking me questions.
Hey, doesn't she know your schedule, Bill?
No, she doesn't actually.
Dear VA.
I've got two VAs looking to hire a third, so they don't always know what I'm doing. So if you're doing lease options and getting deep discounts, you don't have to worry about the money. I mean, Pete, if I had a Mercedes that was worth $50,000, and I said to you, I said, hey, Pete, the guy across the street, from my sister's house down here in Florida, he's got some trouble and he's been drinking too much and he's been doing some weird shit. And he told me that he wants to sell me his $50,000 Mercedes for 10 grand.
10 grand.
And you went online and, we get the VIN number and you went online and you actually looked at it, you did a little bit of research and you realized that this thing is really worth 50 grand. How hard do you think it would be for me to find that 10 grand? If I said to you, say, hey, Pete, you got 10 grand, you want to split the profit with me? I know we can sell this thing for 40 grand. Hell, we could sell it for 30 grand.
Yeah. I mean, it's like telling somebody, hey, you want $10,000 for doing nothing almost?
Right. Just let me borrow your money. Give me the 10 grand. I'm going to give it to him in cash. And within 30 days, I'm going to put it right back on Craigslist. And I know we can get 30 grand. Yeah. So you can make 10 grand, we'll split the profit. You can make 10. So That's no different than a house. I mean, those type of people are looking for you and I. They want to do those deals because most people that have money. I tried stopping that for the last 3 minutes. Sorry about that, and I just couldn't stop it. I'm a wreck today. So those people that have money usually can't find the deals, or they don't know how to do the deals, or they're not real estate savvy.
Be the guys, people to lend the money.
Yeah, most of them, or they're just plain old lazy and just don't want to do the deals. They want to, just give the money, right? Mm-hmm. So here's what happens when you're getting the deed deals, okay, which is what most people call subject to. Now, pay attention here if you're listening, because I am going to just blurt out some crazy ass shit right now. I am going to blurt out. If you're listening to this live, you should go back and listen to this recorded, because I'm going to tip the cart, and this is just crazy ass shit, because so many people don't know this, Peter. So many people. And I've enhanced this in the last year or two. You know this because I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
I usually only talk about it in my coaching group, but I'm just going to kind of spill the beans right here, right now. So if you're going to do getting the deed deals, right, which is when the seller allows you to assume their loan. So the first thing you're going to get as a rebuttal is well, you can't assume loans anymore. That's against the law. Well, that's, what do they call it? Pucky hawk, or whatever they call it. What's that word?
Hockey puck?
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's not true.
Potato. It's a hot potato.
Yeah. So let me explain this without taking a lot of time. If your attorney or closing agent, right, closes this deal for you, what they're going to do is they're going to put the property into a trust. So what most people don't realize is there's only 4 entities that own all the real estate in the world. Mm-hmm. It's a person's name. It's an entity like a LLC or a corporation of some sort.
Yeah.
Number 2. Number 3, it's a partnership of some sort, with one or many partners. And number 4 is a trust. Those are the only 4 things that can own real estate. A person's name, a single person in their name.
Sure.
Like Bill Hawthorne or Pete Cola owns the real estate.
Right.
Or an LLC, number 2, an LLC or a corporation. Number 3 is a partnership or some sort of a syndication of a partnership, mm-hmm. right? And number 4 is a trust, right? So what we're going to do in this particular case with the attorney is we are going to change the name on the property. So we're going to take it from the seller's name and put it into a trust. Okay. So the investor becomes the trustee at that point. So you're changing the entity of who owns the property. You're changing it from the seller's name into the trust. Now that it's in a trust, it's safe and secure, and the trustee, because in a trust there's a trustee and then there's a beneficiary. The trustee does all the work. The trustee is completely transparent, doesn't have tax line ramifications, doesn't have any of that kind of stuff. They're just there to manage this business that's called a trust.
So he's an administrator.
He's an administrator. And then the owner stays on as a beneficiary.
So he would receive benefits from it. Like if something happens.
He's the actual owner or the one that has the asset, and he's the one that makes the decisions. The trustee executes them. The beneficiary doesn't sign documents. But he makes all the decisions. He's the boss. Okay. And then the trustee is the guy that administers, like you said, or is like the manager and runs the trust. Okay. So you have your attorney close from your seller into a trust. The seller stays on as a beneficiary, and the investor becomes the trustee. or whoever the investor so chooses becomes the entrustee,
Right.
right? Which I prefer he picks somebody else, right? Now that you're closed in the trust, the trustee runs the trust.
Mhm.
Okay. Then now watch this. This is what nobody talks about. At that point, once you've done that, now, which by the way, if you go on to Google and you type in government settlement statement, or just type in HUD-1 or settlement statement, you pull up any settlement statement that's issued by the government or any, most attorneys around the country, you'll notice that on line 203, it says taking the property subject to.
Right on the closing statement.
Right on the closing statement, right? So it's as legal could be. It's because people don't understand how to do it that makes it illegal. Okay? So once the trust is formed, which by the way, you have to be careful because most people don't know how to do this. Like, for example, attorneys, when you bring up the word trust, they don't understand a property trust. What they talk about is they talk about a trust for a family trust or a business trust, and they start asking, for identification numbers, and they want to register it. Wrong type of trust. You have to get somebody that understands property trust. When I do my trust, I did dozens and dozens and dozens of them without an attorney. I went my first probably 12 or 13 years and never used a real estate agent, a bank, or an attorney to close my deals. I did them all myself. Okay, and you can do that. The document we use is called a warranty deed of trust. So it does three things. It warranties that there's no liens. So the guarantee is there's no liens. It changes ownership from the seller to wherever I want it to go. And in this particular case, it builds the trust. The deed builds the trust. So it does three things. It changes transfer paperwork. It warranties that there's no liens, and it develops the trust and puts the house in the trust. And as long as it's notarized and it's got two witnesses, it's filed, it's done. You don't need an attorney to do any of this, right? So once you have the trust established, you can then have your seller sign a one-page document that's literally a couple paragraphs and assign the beneficial interest out of his name into somebody else's name.
Well, that makes sense because if you're buying the house, he shouldn't be the beneficiary.
Right.
So that after the closing, then you switch it to someone
Or
else.
you could do it in the closing and have the attorney do, your closing agent sign the documents. You just don't execute it till after the trust has been formed. Because you have to have a trust to be able to have a beneficiary, right? So
Yeah.
you want to file all the documents, get it all straight, because otherwise you'd have a document that says a beneficial interest that doesn't exist because the trust hasn't been formed. Right? So now here's the amazing thing. You could put that into your business entity, and become the beneficiary. Or you could wholesale that document, that subject to deal, to somebody else. Right? So if you had a subject to deal and I'm in Connecticut and I find a subject to deal in Toledo, Ohio, and I don't want to manage the property, I could find an investor there and say, hey, give me $5,000 and I'll give you the house with a loan and everything. All you gotta do is give me $5,000. I assign the beneficial interest of my seller in a trust that I've already formed, and he now becomes the owner, or his entity or her entity actually becomes the owner. Right? Now here's the magic, okay? The only money you risk is filing the deed, which is usually less than $100. And here's the reason why, okay? When I use my deed of trust, I put on the deed the sale amount is $1 and other valuable consideration. See, if I were to assume a deed for, we'll say, $150,000, I'm not giving the seller $150,000.
No.
You could put down $100 and other valuable consideration if you give them $100. You shouldn't give them more than that. By doing that, the national form, which is called a conveyance tax form, which is a national form. It's the same in every city across the United States. Says that if the transaction is less than $2,000, you don't have to pay conveyance tax. Okay,
Nice.
so you just pay the filing fees. In my city, it's $70. Some in your city, when we did yours, I think it was $55. Every city's different. It's less than $100.
Mhm.
Okay, so you just took a house that has a mortgage, poured it in a trust, and then decided who gets the trust. And if you're really afraid of owning the house, just wholesale it to somebody, or find somebody like me, and I'll give you the $5,000 and take it over, and I'll property manage it. Right. So after you get all through all that, here's the amazing part. The bank sees this as the seller doing estate planning,
Putting his property in a trust for estate planning.
and it doesn't trigger the due on sale clause because
Well,
it just sees it as just doing estate planning.
well, I know you've said that. I've done these for you. Called the bank and said, I'm the new trust on it, blah, blah, blah. They go, send me this, send me that. Thank you very much. I don't think they're thinking anything.
No.
If anybody thought about it, maybe it's a state. I'm just saying they don't even bother. They don't even ask you questions like, what's this all about? They go, thank you very much. Send me this, send me that. Bye. Hang up. They really don't care.
Right. And people are afraid of doing this.
Well, the first one you sent me to do, I got to talk to a bank trust. I've never done it before. Like, how's this going to go? They're going to ask me something? They don't. They don't really care. It's a girl at a desk. You're like, she's going to talk to you for 5 minutes. She's going to talk to 55 other people today. She wants to go home. It's really fine. Just call up, do the thing, and goodbye. Click.
Exactly.
It's the funniest thing.
Now, here's the thing. If your seller doesn't want to do any of this, okay, just do a lease option. Okay?
Yeah.
So, I know we're supposed to be talking about fear here, but what I'm trying to get is that, and I'm going to get to that like pretty quick here. So the point that I'm trying to make is if this won't work for your seller, do a lease option. If they want a deposit, have the buyer pay the deposit. Just make sure there's some money in between for you. So if the buyer wants a $5,000 deposit, make sure you can get a $10,000 deposit and you keep $5,000.
Yeah.
Right. Only thing that you have to risk is the $100 worth of consideration deposit when you do a lease option, which I'm going to cover that in a couple of minutes. Okay. So getting back to the fear thing, and we're talking about money, right? So if you're worried about losing money or risking money, how do you not lose money in real estate? Go ahead.
Don't put it in.
Don't put any money in.
Yeah, there's other kinds of deals. And it's funny, we talk about houses and can you do this, can you do that? But if you dumb it down to like cars or smaller items, I mean, you don't have to buy a car at a dealership and go to the bank for a loan. You can buy from a guy up the street and pay him off or borrow money and pay it later. You can do that. I bought cars from you directly or from your car place and make payments or just pay you. You can buy a lawnmower from the guy up the street. You don't have to ask the bank or the mafia for permission. Houses are big. We think, oh my God, the government has to regulate it or something. No, it's just a big, big house. It's okay. It's a bunch of money. But you could do it directly with owners. You can use an attorney in cases like this. But you started selling cars, right? And you moved up to houses.
Yep.
So it's just the size of it scares people, but the procedure is not that terribly different. Just buying.
It's actually easy. It's actually easier to buy and sell houses than it was cars because it's a whole lot less regulated.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you don't drive them around.
All right, number 2. Let's get back to fear. Number 2, fear of being a landlord. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The magical thing about a lease to purchase, when you do it my way, is you can rent and not be a landlord. The lease buyer is going to do the repairs and the maintenance, shovel the snow, cut the grass, and handle any noisy neighbors that they might want to complain about, right? Let me ask you this. If you're listening right now, I'm going to ask you this question. If you have a mortgage with, we'll say, Wells Fargo or American National Bank or wherever, you have a mortgage, right, with a bank, would you call them up and ask them, when are you going to cut the grass?
Hell no.
Would you call them and ask them to plow the snow
That would be a negative.
or unplug your toilet?
I'd like to ask him. I'd like to ask him that one just to get even, but no. No.
or to complain about your noisy neighbors?
Yeah.
No, they would laugh at you, right? It's all in the paperwork and the agreements made between the buyer and the seller, and it's done before you start, which is exactly what we've done 200, as of today, 212 podcasts showing you what to do. And I'm so proud of that, Peter. You know that, and I know you are too. There's no sponsors, there's no commercials, there's no, unless we know you and we use your service, or you're one of my coaching clients and I know you, you're not getting on this podcast to promote your shit. Right? And believe me, Peter, I have them every week. I've had some really good ones.
Oh, some offers?
Oh, every week I get them. They come on and they use the notes and they go into the meetup.com place. They find me on my website. They find me all on the podcast, the different stream, because we streamed a whole bunch of podcasts, Google Play and iTunes and Stitcher, and there's ones that I don't even know that people listen to us on, right? 212 episodes of talking about how to do slot deals, option deals, lease option deals, getting the deed deals, rehab retail deals, wholesale deals, and owner financing. So there's plenty of information here. There's hundreds and hundreds of hours of training on these podcasts. And especially lately, because I talked about changing the podcast from episode 200, and it's 212. We dig in. I mean, the podcasts are longer now, but we dig in, and I just let the fur fly.
I think you should call these webinars.
Yeah, these are actually webinars. Yeah, totally. Right. So what I'm saying here is that learning how to talk to your seller and learning how to talk to your buyer, and if you set up the agreements the way we talk about in all these podcasts and all the different things, you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. There's dozens of free documents and videos under the free stuff page. If you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff, there's lots of stuff there. There's scripts and all kinds of stuff, okay? It's how you set the deal up. It's not hard. You don't need to have a Yale education. You don't need to go spend $30,000 from one of the other gurus or none of that. You just need to know how to talk to somebody and set it up so that the seller becomes the bank. And with a good option agreement, you could do that. You could make it so that they're the bank.
Yeah, they just get the money. They don't have to worry about anything.
They're actually the intermediate bank. So if somebody needs 2 years to get a loan, a buyer needs 2 years to get a loan, the seller's going to wait and lease to them. The buyer is going to pay all the expenses, do all the maintenance, all the repairs. They're going to deal with the house as if they own it, because remember, they're buying this house. They're not going to damage it in most cases because they're going to buy the house. So why? That's like me saying, I want to buy your car and then going over at night and busting all the windows out of it. It's going to be my car tomorrow. Why would I bust the windows?
Even if you leased a car, planning like, I think I'll keep it. I like it. Why would you not take care of it?
Right. You're still going to wash it. You're still going to take care of it. You're going to treat it like it's your own. Right. Now, I don't know if I covered this later on, so I'll just cover it now. If you do it correctly and you take because really what's happening with an option agreement is you're really getting the rights to sell a house. So if Peter, if you own the property and I want to get an option agreement, technically the option agreement is saying I have the rights to actually sell your property. You're giving me the rights, just like the boys on Wall Street do all the time. You're
You're
giving
right.
me the rights to go off and find a buyer and negotiate a deal and transact the deal and do everything in behalf of you or on behalf of you. Right? That's what an option agreement is. I'm going to pay $100 for those rights, but I don't own anything. I just own the rights. I don't own the house. I don't have the deed. I have nothing. So when I set this up, I'm not going to be a landlord and be responsible for it because I don't own it. I don't want to put my money into this house. I don't own it. I don't have the deed in my name. So the seller owns it and the buyer is soon to be own it. And I'm just setting up that bridge between the two of them so that they can get together and get all their money. And of course, I got a piece of the action in the middle.
Mhm.
Right?
Well, you did the work getting it all organized, and
Right.
making the transaction happen. So that's what you get.
It's such a misnomer because people think that they want to get into the business of doing real estate. Right? So who does real estate really? Who does real estate?
The guy who builds it.
Pretty much. That's it. The guy that takes the raw land and puts an edifice or a house on top of it or some sort of a building on it is the only guy that does real estate. After that, nobody does real estate. Right? The banks don't do real estate. Real estate's just a way for them to like write their notes and make money.
Yeah.
Attorneys don't do real estate or closings. All they're doing is shuffling paperwork. They don't even look at the houses. They don't even know where the houses are. Insurance guy, he's probably the most invested because he's got to make sure he rebuilds the house if it catches on fire. Till that happens, he's just shuffling paper policies. Right? The realtor, what they're not. What are they doing with real estate? They're doing the same thing we're doing. They're signing an agreement saying that they're going to go find a buyer, and when they find them, they're going to do this and that and this. They're signing a contract.
But they're also signing. They're also signing that they might not.
Right.
Right.
Well, the point is their contracts read if you don't sell, if the realtor doesn't sell the property, there's no repercussions.
Right. And so, we have the same thing, don't we?
So an option agreement is the way to do that without a license.
An option that means you don't have to, but you could. So we're not on the hook either.
That's right. If we don't sell the property, then we're just like a realtor. We just walk away.
It's like going fishing. If you don't catch anything, you don't get in trouble.
Right. So if you don't want to be a landlord, that's exactly right.
Just go down.
I did that yesterday. My brother-in-law took me fishing, and the only thing I caught was the smoke blowing in my face when I was smoking my cigar. That was it. I didn't catch
Where's all the fish? Are they quarantined?
The water down here. I said to him, "We're in the boat, right?" And I'm sitting there and I'm smoking my cigar. We're under a bridge because I was hot, so we went under a bridge, and because it was hot. It was like 100 degrees here yesterday. So
Ooh.
I'm looking down at his fish finder thingy, right? And I look at it, and we're like in 8 feet of water.
Is this ocean water, like harbor or something?
Yeah. Well, we're under a bridge. We were at the mouth of like a river.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking water was 89.6 degrees.
Holy crap!
I said to my brother-in-law, I said, he's not much of a fisherman. I said, you realize that one of the most valuable statistics of fishing is the water temperature. You know that, right? Because fish have mercury in them, and they adjust to the temperature.
Oh, yeah, well, they're cold. They're cold-blooded, so they would get hot in that. Huh?
Yeah, and they don't want to move. They don't want to eat. They don't want to move. They don't want nothing. They're just going to go to deep water and try to cool down. Right? And we weren't in deep water. All right, number 3. Let's move on. Fear. Well, first of all, did I cover being a landlord?
Yeah.
Okay, so my final statement is if you have fear of being a landlord, then just learn how to assign everything. Learn how to assign a subject to deal like I just showed you. Learn how to get an owner finance deal and just assign the paper. Learn how to find a lease option and just sign the paper. Joe McCall talks about wholesaling lease options. And that was clever on Joe McCall's part because all you're doing is assigning it. You're not wholesaling it. You're just assigning the deal. You go find the deal and you assign it. my point on my rant a few minutes ago is what we really are is marketing people. We need to find the seller, we need to find the buyer, have the right paperwork, and put them together. And if you know how to put the paperwork together, there's no reason to be a landlord, or there's no reason to be any of these people, because you're just assigning them and you're passing it from one to another. So as long as you're not getting the deed in your name, which I'm going to cover in a few minutes, then there's nothing to worry about.
Well,
So
one thing that attracts people in real estate is they want to wholesale deals, right? That's the big thing. They all want to wholesale because they think they're off the hook. They have no responsibility. They don't own it. They're going to flip it to somebody and just make some money and walk off. But those aren't easy to do. So assigning it is better than that. But it's a similar concept of get something and turn it around.
It cracks me up because to wholesale a deal, you got to find a property that somebody's willing to sell for 40, 50, 60 cents on a dollar.
Yeah.
So it's worth, $100,000. They got to pay 40, 50, 60,000 for it.
Yeah.
And those are out there, but they're harder to find.
Yeah, there's not many of that.
You could do the same thing with a slot deal. You could go find a pretty, and the thing is that these people are taught, go find an ugly house. The big thing is find an ugly house in a pretty neighborhood and you can make money. Well, that's old school, man. That's like driving a Model T Ford, a 1939 Model T Ford. It worked back then, but it doesn't have all the modern technology we have now. Nowadays, if you want to make money wholesaling, you should be wholesaling pretty deals. And that's done with an option agreement. That's done in a slot deal. That's done with an option agreement. That's done with a getting the deed deal or a rent to own deal. You do it with any one of them.
If it's a good enough deal, somebody will want it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When you're wholesaling a house, you have to go find wholesalers, right? You have to find the guy with the money. Right? Because they got to close within 30 days and you need the cash.
Right.
If you do what I'm talking about, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be an investor. It could be the person that's going to live in the house. The difference is instead of closing in 30 days, you're going to close in 2 years, and finding that seller is not so easy sometimes. And that's the difference.
Right. But there are circumstances where people will wait longer for more money and they'll do it.
The difference is when you're negotiating, it's easier for people to teach that. The guys that teach that stuff, it's easier for them to teaching the wholesaling because all it is money. You don't have to teach them sales techniques. You don't have to worry about what they say. You don't have to teach all that fancy stuff, as they say. Okay. All right, let's move on. Number 3, fear of the deal not being perfect, or wanting to do it without anything going wrong. So I find a lot of I have a couple coaching clients like this. They're looking for perfect deals, right? And I got news for them, and I tell them this all the time. There is no such thing as a perfect deal.
Hey, Bill, are you looking for the perfect spouse too?
Do we have to bring that up? One of these days, our wives are going to listen to this podcast, and you and I are going to be in deep shit.
Oh, no, we're fine. I'm talking about them.
Oh.
Our wives are perfect.
Yeah, okay. Peter's
Disclaimer.
back.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, Peter's backpedaling now. You sound like a politician, Peter. You're backpedaling now. So this is why I strongly suggest that you find a seller to rent to you and do a lease option, because there's no risk factor there. It's completely riskless. So if I sign a lease option agreement with you, if I sign an option agreement with you for 90 days and I can't find a buyer for the property, and I give you $10 for the option or $100 for the option, whichever one I want, and I don't find the buyer, what happens to me, Peter?
Nothing.
I lose my $10 or my $100. It's no different than the realtor signing a contract with you and saying they could sell in 6 months, and they don't sell in 6 months. In fact, the realtor comes back and says, can I do it for another 6 months?
Can we go around the merry-go-round another time? Like, sure, let's do that again. Another 6 months of failure.
You did such a great job for me. I think I'll tie my house up for another 6 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Promises.
Now, at any point, if the deal you have goes wrong or you get nervous. Now, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. This is the part that I don't understand about the fear factor. Because there is, I mean, I don't have a lot of fear. So this podcast was hard for me to write because I don't have some of the experiences that some people have. You know, I'm a risk, you know that I'm a risk taker and I do things. And so some of this stuff is hard for me to understand. So I come from it a different angle, but I've done my fact checking and I've had people tell me, and I have coaching clients and you tell me things and, you know, my daughters tell me things and, you know, and I can put myself in your shoes, but I can't put myself in your shoes with blindfolds on. Just because I don't tend to have a lot of fear doesn't mean that I could just pretend like what you're telling me is true.
Of course.
So here's the biggest thing in this podcast that I'd like to get across. I wish I could just swear right now because I'd go off on a tangent. Like, knock it off. It's like so stupid. And here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. At any point in any one of my 7 deals, if you get to a point where you feel uncomfortable or you feel like you don't want to do this anymore, or you feel too much pressure, or you feel whatever, you feel, right? First of all, your feelings don't do deals. Your analytical mind does. So get control of yourself, number one. And that's easy for me to say. I'm just being a dick right now, okay? But here's my point. All you have to do is assign the deal. Just go to your RIA group, you know, send the deal on my support ticket. Just go. You don't have to go to a lot of places. Go to Bigger Pockets and put it on Bigger Pockets form, right? And just assign the deal. So go as long as you can go until it's just so unbearable that it's keeping you awake at night, and just assign the deal. You can assign an option. You can assign a subject to deal. I just told you how to do that. You can assign a deal that, a fix and flip. We call that wholesaling.
Right.
And you can assign owner financing. You can assign any one of these deals. So why is it that you're afraid?
Can I make an observation of you?
Of me?
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, it'll be good. We're in public here.
Okay. Well, I'd like to hear it bad too, because I don't care.
Yeah. That's why I don't bother. No, but seriously,
You and my wife.
No, this is important. And I've worked with you long enough that, and you've done this long enough that you have the attitude going into something. You don't have to know everything about it. You don't have to have everything solved up front. Because I know, or you know, I should say, that if something comes up, you can figure out something to do about it. So, and my point is that real estate has been around for as soon as we got into caves and whatever. And anything that has gone wrong, or could go wrong, has gone wrong. And people have figured out what to do about it. So it's actually okay if something comes up, a wrinkle that you weren't expecting. You know, they do that on the real estate rehab shows. Like, oh, we have to drill a hole in the floor to fix the drainage. Big freaking deal. They make them get excited about that and nervous. And they go to commercial, you come back like, oh, it's all fixed. It's really great. I'm glad it happened. This is better now. It happens all the time. So you have less fear because you're sure you can fix whatever comes up. People aren't sure they can fix whatever comes up. But whatever has happened or could happen has, and it can be fixed before they assign it. You know, don't freak out. There's a way.
You want to know what my secret is? You want to know what my secret is?
Yes. I thought I just said it, but what's the secret to what I just said?
My secret of not having fear is this one stable piece of information. Mm-hmm. Just do your next step. So if a problem happens, like you're saying, and I got to cut a hole in the floor, and that becomes my problem, then I figure out how to cut a hole in the floor. But here's the magic, and I can't really explain this the way I should, right? But if I take all of my attention units and put it on one problem, and I'm not dispersed in my thinking because I'm worried about the contractor and I'm worried about my wife and I'm worried about my kids and I'm worried about the bank account. I get as much out of that thinking that I put into it. So although I'm very good at multitasking because you've seen me do that, right? But I do what I'm doing while I'm doing it. And we talked about this last week in episode 211, right? So, because it was in time management, right? So I only think about or only put my attention on one thing at a time. Now, it might be only for 30 seconds and I'll come up with a solution. Sometimes it's 3 hours. Sometimes I can't come up with a solution and I'll park it. I'll put it in the little treasure chest and I'll leave it alone. And then when I come back to it, something will pop into my head. We were talking about this last week where like I'll have this problem. I won't know what to do with it. And it'll be grinding. And I'll be like, I'll go on a Saturday afternoon. I'll go with my wife and we'll go to some museum or just go do something together. And I'll be in the gift shop, and I'll see something or a book that has a word on it or something that will trigger a solution because I'm relaxed. You know, neediness. Ben Settle, who's one of my mentors because I read all his stuff. He's a copywriter, email guy. Ben Settle, go look him up. It's Settle. Ben Settle. He wrote a couple books, and one of the books talks about neediness. People who are needy, they just, it leaks out of their skin. And the other person that they're trying to close or talk to or whatever, if you have fear, not much different than when a dog comes around you and can sense the fear, your sellers can sense it too. Your buyers can sense it. And they prey on you and it makes it worse. So you have to subdue that. And the only way to do that is to put your attention on the next step. Don't worry about the whole process. If you get through that step, do another one. And the trick is to have enough leads in the pipeline and not be stuck on one deal and constantly think that it's, you put 4 months. I had this happen. I was doing a coaching call the other day, yesterday. And the guy's like, I've been doing this for 4 years. And he's got, all these excuses about how COVID, they took his car, they cleaned his car out, they threw away his notes, they did this, they did that. He's got all these and I'm like, he got all done. He's like, I was hoping you'd give me some words of wisdom. I said, I got words of wisdom. You want them? He's like, yeah. I says, you're too dispersed, dude. You got too many things going on. You should do one thing at a time. Phone went dead silent. He didn't know what to say.
He doesn't know how to do that.
He's like, oh my God, I never thought of that. I'm like, yeah, do one thing at a time. Do it and do it right. And then move on to the next. So as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that you should be fearful of is your next step. You shouldn't be fearful of the house is going to go wrong, because if you do the steps correctly, which there's plenty of guys like me out there, there's a lot of books out there. I mean, Christ, everybody listening to me right now has a huge advantage that I didn't have when I started.
What would that be, Bill?
It's called Google. We didn't have that when I started. There was no internet when I started. We did everything by mail. You called and ordered Carlton Sheets' book on the TV. If you didn't see him on the TV, you didn't know he existed.
Yep.
Right? It's not like it is today.
No, you couldn't see it on TV. Oh, I'll look it up tomorrow on Google. No, you had to jump. You had to jump up in the middle of the night, find a pencil and paper, and write that phone number down.
Yeah, exactly.
But one other thing you do, though, is you have a team of people around you. If and so do I. I can always ask you. But if something comes up, there's a contractor, there's a lawyer. You have your team. You have people. You have your brother who does construction. You have your neighbor who's a lawyer. You ask them. They tell you what to do. Right. You don't have to.
What is the name of that website that has contractors? Advantage something.
Thumbtack?
No, your Thumbtack is one of them.
Oh, home advisors?
Home advisors, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're worried about a house, just call up a home advisor and get a contractor on the phone and say, hey, I'm thinking about buying this house. What do you think? I mean, it's not that hard.
Yeah, you don't have to. I learned this a long time ago. I hope we're not too far off track, but this is all fear stuff. I learned a long time ago, you're not expected to know everything. If you don't know something, you tell people, I don't know, I'll find out. They would believe you more than if you acted and pretended like you're full of crap and you know everything, because nobody does. You're
So
more real than say, I don't know.
I'm going to cover this in a little while, but there's a website called legalguide.com. My wife uses it. Legalguide.com. It costs $39 a month. LegalZoom is another one. I'm going to cover that in a few minutes, but just what you're saying, there's your team member. You don't need an attorney. Just go to Legal Guide or LegalZoom. Ask the questions there. If you're worried about, and we're going to cover this in a minute, but if you're worried about contracts or you're worried about, all that stuff, then there's a team member. Right? All right, number 4, property value decline. That's a big one. Property value decline. Right?
Yeah.
So if you follow my 7 strategy math, which you can get at flippinghousesforrookies.com. If you just go to courses, there's I think it's extraordinary real estate deals defined or something like that. It's a free course. You can go in there. Okay. Shows you all the 7 deals. You'll be safe. There's no reason for fear. Right? So I had a deal one time in Plainville, Connecticut. It's the first time this happened to me. I think I bought the house for $181,000. I bought it subject to, I put somebody in there. They were there 18 months. I sold it to them for $210,000. Okay, that was the option agreement.
Yep.
He went and got his mortgage. Guess what? Mortgage said the property's worth, I think, $193. So what do? That's a property value decline.
And it's real. It's not imaginary.
Right.
The bank has to prove it because they're giving the loan.
Right.
Right.
So what do? Here's what I did. I took the $193,000. I wrote a note with the guy for the difference of the $17,000. Right?
Yeah.
That note still exists. I haven't gotten paid yet. And that's probably 10 years ago. But you know where it is?
Oh, it's a note, so it's filed?
It's attached to his deed. So when he refinances and he goes to sell later on, what are they going to have to come get?
They have to get a lien release from you.
They have to get Bill's signature on a lien release. So someday I'll wake up and some attorney or somebody will be blowing my phone up saying, hey, so if I only take $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, do I care? It's my money.
You can release it for whatever amount you want. It's your note. You can change it.
And here's the point that I'm trying to make is it didn't cost me anything to do it. I mean, it cost me, whatever, $100 or $200 in the closing for my lawyer. It wasn't even that much money, but for my lawyer to draft up the note and file it.
Yeah.
But it beats throwing that $17,000 in the garbage pail.
Yeah, and you didn't lose the 17. You made, 13 or whatever it was, 1,000. You didn't make as much as you want, but you made that, and you could get more later.
So here, when I hear somebody talking about property decline, okay, and I'm going to subdue my real feelings here because my insides are jumping around right now, because that pisses me off to no end. Because I have the horse in the field with the plow on the back of it with the blinders on it that just needs to go forward. That's what I have. I have a stubborn investor that is not taking time to learn how to buy and sell real estate. That's what I have. Because first of all, if you followed the 7 strategies, you would know the loan to value ratio and you wouldn't get involved in a deal like that. First of all, right? Second of all, in almost every decline, it never seems to go more than 20%. Now, there's been areas like in the past where Florida went, 50%, right? That's unusual.
Yeah.
But the declines never go more than 20%. Let's say they go 30%. Well, if you're really worried about decline, then just make sure you buy houses for more than a 20% or a 30% discount. And you won't have to worry about the decline. Do your research in your area because you're probably a thinker brain and you're, one of those, you got paralysis from analysis. and you want to spend all your time on your computer and not going out buying houses, well, then go do your analysis with your spreadsheet and find out that in your area, it probably doesn't have, when times get bad, there's probably not more than a 20% decline.
Right. Is there time to wait for it to come back, or is that hard to
It doesn't
predict?
matter. That's what my point is. That's the part that pisses me off. Because if you're using the simple formula, money now, money monthly, money later, that means you had two profit centers already. You got money now and you got cash flow coming in every month. Who cares about the equity? You know, the only time you should sell a house is when you need money.
Right.
Otherwise, you should keep your investment or your connections to that house and keep sucking cash out of it.
Right.
Kiyosaki said it best in his book, Cash Flow Quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you need $4,000 a month to live, have assets that will spit off $5,000 or $6,000 a month, because being rich or being wealthy means getting money without having to work 40 hours a week. So if you could get $6,000 a month in assets spitting off because you worked for a year or two putting these houses together, you don't want to sell them. You want to keep getting your $6,000 a month so that you can have your $4,000 to live off of and put money in reserve. Or if somebody doesn't pay you, you have a cushion.
Sure.
So I hear these people that talk about how they want to make all this money with equity and they want to make millions of dollars and they want to do this and they want to do that. I mean, for Christ's sake, in a year or two's time, just doing subject to deals and lease options, you could get enough real estate to replace your job one at a time. But that's not fancy enough in the headlines. And that's not what people want to hear. They want to hear about how they make 20 grand and 50 grand and 100 grand on the equity. Get off of it. The equity sucks. Because, Peter, you know as well as I do, you put 20 grand in your checkbook, it goes away. It doesn't stay there. Maybe it goes away in a month. Maybe it goes away in a year. But if you don't reinvest it, it's not going to earn. Money is energy. It needs to move. It needs to keep moving. And if it's not moving, it eats itself. It's like a cancer. All of a sudden, what happens is the car breaks down and needs a $2,000 transmission. That's what happens when you have stale money. It's looking to get out of jail. It's looking to get out there and do something. It's looking to work. It's looking to do, it's looking to get on the chain gang and get out there and work. And people that do that don't understand it. It's the funniest thing in the world with money because I've helped a lot of business owners. And one of the things that I've done a lot of, and I've never probably even told you this, is if you look at money as a pipeline, like a pipe that's, say it's 10 feet long, and you put water in it, so the water comes in on the left side and it goes out on the right side. So many people are worried about how to get water in a pipe. And what I've done with these business owners, because I've consulted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I work for a company that's all I did for 6 years is I talked between 12 and 15 business owners. Every weekend I would fly to a different city. We would do a 2-day seminar, and I was the troubleshooter. I would take their profit and loss statement. I would sit down with them for 60 to 90 minutes, and I would tell them exactly what's wrong with their business and how to fix it. That was my job. I was trained to do that from a profit and loss statement, from the numbers. Without even talking to them. And a vast majority of the time, what I would tell some of those business owners is stop being stingy. Open the right side of the pipe up. Get the water to flow so the water can come in, because what's happening is if you have enough money to fill the pipe and you don't push the other side and make it flow through the pipe, you won't get any more money. The pipe's full. You can't put any more water in the pipe. It's full because you're using whatever it is that you need. You're making just enough money to live off of, just enough money to do what you need to do, and you're not allowing yourself to have more. If you don't unplug the right side of the pipe and let the water run out, you're not going to be able to put more water in it. And then it's the same way. So spending money is a good thing. The problem, and Kiyosaki did a really good job with this, is labeling the difference between spending money on assets and spending money on liabilities.
Right.
So what you need to do is you need to invest that money in assets. And the stuff that I'm talking about here, you don't even need to spend money. What you need to do is you need to do some marketing, and you need to figure out how to control, like Nelson Rockefeller said, control, don't own anything, but control a lot until you can start getting some dough and you can start making those investments yourself. Start off slow, do one at a time. Do one deal at a time and try it out.
Well, they do say slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. So for people that are worried about houses that decline, they're not trying to figure out the last decline, what was the percentage, and just buy houses on a deeper discount. If it was an 18% average decline, then just buy houses with more than a 20, and you won't get hurt. Right? Just be smart.
Yep.
And this doesn't take years to figure out. Just go to Google and figure it out. Go somewhere. Right?
Well, one thing you've also said is if there is a market change, it's happening to everybody. So everybody has to adjust. The banks have to adjust. The lawyer, everybody has to like give a little bit, or like can't foreclose everything, shut everything down. They have to respect that.
What do you think is going to happen to your seller when the 2-year mark comes up and you have to execute your option? And you call them up and say, "Hey, the market's really declined. The sellers are hard to find. We need to work something else out." Just because they're hearing it on the TV too, right?
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to say? "No, I want my money." And you say, "Okay, I'm going to walk away. You take the tenant. I'm out." They'll change their mind.
Yeah.
I promise you, I've done it. So as long as you're not like some, pulling some weirdness outside of the economy, the environment, right? Then you'll be fine. Just work a new deal with the guy. Especially if you're cash flowing, you'll make more money, right?
Yep. Patience.
Number 5, paperwork and what it all means. Right? So that's a fear, paperwork and what it all means. So first of all, you can go onto my site, flippinghousesforrookies.com, go on to courses, and there's a package there that you can buy all my paperwork. Okay. And I've done something that nobody else has done. I've isolated the deals, the 7 deals. So like if you look at the page, it says slot deal. And underneath that is all the paperwork you need for a slot deal. Then it says option deal, and all the paperwork you need for an option is there. And then it says, rent to own, all the paperwork you need for rent to own is there. Getting the deed, same thing. All the paperwork is there. So you don't have to go figure out what paperwork's for what, right? I remember you telling me one time going on Ron LeGrand's Gold Club one time. You couldn't figure it out because it's all disorganized.
Well, the whole thing was like, here's 89 videos. Like, well, which one's first?
Right.
And they weren't organized. Like, I didn't know enough to pick which one I should start with.
People do that with our podcast. Having 212 podcasts, they don't know which one to pick. That's why we do what we do. This is our public forum. So they pick whichever title resonates with them. Right? Now, if you're looking to build a business off of the podcast, then go to our boot camp podcast, which is on Flipping Houses for Rookies to the right of the regular boot camp, and just follow through. It's a checklist type of environment.
Yeah, we did a whole sequence. Start here,
Yep.
one at a time, in sequence, so you learn how it works.
Right.
And then you listen to these for all the fine-tuning.
Right. So paperwork. The other thing you could do is you could just Google lease options online. You can find leases and options to buy. They won't be as good as mine because mine are tested and proven, but you can do a deal or two and get some dough in your pocket so that you can get going. This is not something I made up, Peter. This has been around for a long time, hundreds and hundreds of years. All I did was perfect how to do it and show you and others how to use it. So
you made a system out of it.
For Christ's sake, your realtor has it in their MLS and they don't even know it. Just ask the realtor to give you the documents, right? Now they're not going to be as tight as mine, and they may not have all the landlord risk-free stuff in them, but it could get you started. You can manipulate the documents yourself if you're clever. You don't need me. You can do it another way. I mean, I definitely make it a lot easier, but you don't need to do that. You can get into my coaching group. You get in my coaching group, you get all my documents. And that's kind of like a hidden secret because if you buy the documents, it's expensive, but you get in the coaching group, you could stay in the coaching group for a couple months and get all the documents. And I've had people do that. I've had them join my coaching group, steal all my documents, and then leave. I try to prevent that, but it could happen, right? How about this, Peter? this is the part that really, and I've never said this before. I've never said this before.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people are afraid of documents. I just don't get it.
Well, isn't it because they don't understand them?
So hire a closing agent. Let them do the documents. All you need to do is just draw an outline, whether it's a purchase and sales contract. I don't care if you use a napkin. Say, this is what I want to do. And have a closing agent do that. Once the closing agent does one, and then have your buyer pay for the closing agent. But once you do one deal with a closing agent or an attorney, you now have the documents. I don't get it. Why are people so hung up about the documents? Just have a closing agent do it. I'm not doing any weird deals, right? I mean, I'm not the only person that's ever done a subject to deal the way I just explained it.
Oh, no.
Right? Just know you listen to this podcast. You want to know how to do subject to deals? Go to episode number 169. Completely explains how to do subject to deals for free. What we did on that podcast, you would pay $1,500 for and go to a 2 or 3 day seminar and have to pay hotel expenses and all that kind of stuff. And we gave it to you for free on this podcast. And if you don't understand it, go back and look for the misunderstood words or the places where you went blank. And right before then, you'll figure out that you didn't understand something. Look up the word in the dictionary or get somebody to help you or send a support ticket in. Right?
Yeah, every day, I'm online, like, what the hell is blah, blah, blah? Initials.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I come from music where they take the Italian language and abbreviate it with initials. There's no chance of understanding that. You pull your phone up, you go, letter, click, in real estate, and it'll tell you what it is. Or it's a word, like, what the heck is that word? It's right there. It'll tell you. No concepts are hard to understand. But if there's a word you don't know, you have no chance. Look that up. It's on your phone.
You know what? This is way off topic, and we're out of time, and I still have 2 or 3 more pages of notes here. So I learned something a long time ago. When you read something, if you don't get a clear mental image picture of what you just read, it's either the author did a shitty job writing it, which is not always true. It's not likely, or you have a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Like if I said to you, I have a 300-pound pig. I took my 55 Chevy pickup truck, drove it in the desert, and I took a tire, a tractor tire, put it on the roof, and then I put the pig on top of the tire, so that the sun could bake it and cook it, and it cooked for 3 hours. Right?
Yeah.
You got a picture, didn't you?
Yeah, but you know what else you got? I'm taking this one step further, Mr. Hall. You also could do it.
Right.
You understand enough that you could actually get a truck, get the pig, get the tire, and actually do it. So it's not just, I understand it. You understand enough to follow through and do it. Then you understand it. So what were you going to say? Keep going now.
So if you're not getting those clear pictures, then you don't understand something. And you need to go figure out what you don't understand so you can get that clear picture. Because once you got the clear picture, like you said, you can do it.
Yeah. So what's a tractor tire?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so number 6, risking your life savings for a mistake. Okay, so I think I've covered this. Just don't put money in.
Yeah.
Right? Stick to lease options until you feel safe. And then start making the more complicated deals slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or how about this one? Most people don't think it is, because this is what I did for my first probably 100 deals. Because I got a partner that had money, and I split deals with him. And I had a sounding board, and we would talk about things, and we would, it's kind of like a battery, right? Like a battery in your car, an automotive battery, right? That big battery that's in your car. It's got a positive and it's got a negative. And the positive goes to the negative, or the negative goes to the positive, whichever way. It's direct current, so it goes in a circle. The positive goes to the negative goes to the positive. It goes in a circle and it moves. Right. If you take away the negative, what's going to happen to the positive?
Nowhere to go.
It doesn't move, right?
Doesn't flow.
This is what it's like when you have a partner. You have 2 terminals that are of comparable magnitude. They can help one another create energy. You have to have, and I'm not talking about your brother-in-law or your mother or the person that has money. I'm talking about somebody that has the same amount or equal to at least interest and and uh, willingness to do what you do.
Right.
Right. So just get a partner.
Yeah,
Find someone.
you'll find somebody in your family or a friend
Yep.
who's always wanted to do this. I called you years ago, and
Yep.
when I'm here, my wife is kind of handy with computers, and I know things she doesn't know. But sometimes we're working on a project, so let's both do it together. As we
Right.
hit something, what the hell is that? She goes, oh, it's this one. Oh, good. And then she goes, what the hell is that?
Yep.
It's that one. Okay, good. Between the
Yep.
two of us, we're almost a whole person sometimes. It works.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and it's more fun than sitting there by yourself. What the hell? Lonely? Team up.
Exactly. All right, number 7, paying too much or buying the wrong house. So again, the lease purchases is a good way to get started. Go slow, right? Do the properties where you get the deed and your name later. Don't do those now, because the ones that you get the deed in your name, there's more responsibility, there's more fear. Just do the deals that don't need to get deeds in them, and get your feet wet. Get in there and figure out what's going on. Plus, if you use options, you're not legally responsible for anything. It says you have the rights to sell. It doesn't say you have to sell. It doesn't say you're going to go to court if you don't sell, just like the realtor. You have the right, they have the right to go market your property and sell it. If they don't, oops, I couldn't sell your property. Sorry.
Yeah. Not
Right?
my fault. Your property's crappy. You're asking too much. Nobody's interested. Not my fault. Your fault.
So just use options and lease options. Last week we talked about, or the week before, we talked about just using an option. Right? So let me just run through that real quick. I don't have time to do this, but I can't help myself. So you got a house that's worth $200,000. You do the cost to sell worksheet with them. You find out that they find out that it's going to cost them 15% to sell, right? 6% for the realtor or the marketing, 3% for negotiating, 3% for deferred maintenance or handling the inspector, 3% for closing, gives you like 15%, right? So they realize, oh, I can't sell for 170, but I'll sell for 180. Okay. So you sign an option agreement with them for 180. Don't try to go get 200,000 for that market. Put it on Facebook Marketplace or on Craigslist or wherever you're going to market. Let's Go is a big thing right now. Right? So put it on one of those apps for 185,000. Now everybody else in the neighborhood is advertising $200,000.
Yep.
You're advertising 185. Here's what happens. Your seller comes along, you do one of two things. I'm sorry, your buyer comes along, you do one of two things. You say, I have this option agreement. I'll sell it to you right now and give me $5,000, and you can go buy the house for 180 and go ahead. Or I'll write a purchase and sales agreement between me and you, attach the option agreement to it, and when we close, you're going to give me $5,000 because you have an option. Who can't do that, Peter? It's a 2-page document. You're going to tell me you can't do that? Come on. No risk. Nothing. No money. You gave them $100 for the option agreement, or $10, whatever you want to use.
Yep.
What are you afraid of?
One
Number
of the
8.
ways, one of the ways I get through these things, if I'm doing something newish that just makes me uncertain, is I figure it's a way to learn.
Yeah.
And look at kids. They don't know anything. They go to school. They don't know anything. And they're thinking every day, I got to learn something. And they don't mind doing it because they know they don't know anything. They just take it in stride that they're going to learn something today. They don't expect it to know it because they're kids. So you're a kid. Just go through it to learn. Not even to do the deal, just to learn. And if you keep learning, son of a gun, you'll buy something.
I'm going to go over that before we end. So number 8, lack of education or experience, which is where we're going to cover this, right? This is going to blow you away, and no one is teaching this. And it's just what you were just talking about. Do like the boys on Wall Street do. Pretend to buy stocks and see if it works.
I was just thinking of that. The exact people do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
People follow stock. They go, okay, let's make sure. Okay, I'll make believe I'm buying this one today, and I'll buy this one today. and then they wait. I think I should sell this one like 5 months later or 5 weeks later, and then they see what happens. They're just playing on paper, right?
Right.
Just to test it. So, like a lease option is or just calling people. Any step of it, just learning procedures.
Right.
To get you closer.
So,
One day, get to the end.
so just pretend like you're buying the houses. So how do you do that? Go on to Zillow, right?
Yeah.
Call a seller. Use my free script that's on flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. Go out to the house and practice buying the house, but don't intend to buy the house.
Right. So take all the pressure off. Just do it for practice.
Don't try to buy it at all. If it gets close, then you tell the seller that you have to talk to your partner or your mentor and send a support ticket in, and I'll help you. Or find someone else to help you. Go to a RIA, go somewhere, find a partner, whatever, and put the deal together. Say, hey, I got this guy and blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you how many coaching interviews I've done. You know, I got a guy that's trying to buy a subject to deal in the middle of the country right now, and I said to him point blank, I'll buy it. I'm like, I'll do all the paperwork. I'll teach you how to do it for free as part of you like getting money from the deal. I'll teach you how to do it for free. You'll be in every conversation. You'll be everywhere I am, and you'll be listening. You'll see exactly how to do it. Plus, I'll give you, I think, $5,000 or whatever I told him.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Nice deal.
Guess what? Once I say, which is why I don't do it often. Once I say I want the deal, he'll figure out how to do it because he's like, well, if Bill wants it, I got it. They go off and they do it, right? Plus, this is the amazing part. If you record yourself, because in today's world we have cell phones that can do that. If you record yourself talking with the seller on the phone or talking with the seller in the house, right? Then listen to it later. You'll learn way more than I can teach you or any others. Get your education by not trying to buy the house. Pick a 30-day period from August 1st to August 31st, if there's 31 days in August, right? August 1st to August 31st, I'm actually going to go out and I'm going to talk to 4 sellers and I'm going to practice. If you get close or actually start like looks like you're going to make a deal, then send me a support ticket or find a partner or go to the RIA or, just sign the paperwork and assign it to somebody. But don't try to buy a house. Just go in the house and start working on it and talking to the seller and just work your way through it. But don't try to buy it. Take the pressure off of having to do the deal.
Yeah.
Just get used to talking to people and get used to talking to them on the phone and get used to what happens in the house. Because one of the things that I run into in my coaching group is until you go out to the house and actually sit in the house with the sellers, you suck on the phone. So many of my, especially a VA is like that, a virtual assistant, it takes me a while to train them because I can't take my girl from the Philippines and put her in a house and say, this is what they say. So she'll ask the wrong questions. Or when you go in the house, like for example, a deal a couple months ago, maybe it was longer than that. You had some deal you had us go to out in Newington, and we were in the house for literally 4 minutes. And the guy's like, I don't want to do a terms deal. I want all cash. How much you guys want to offer? And as soon as we get outside, you're like, Bill, I asked him 5 times and he told me he was interested in doing that, right? So it's not a big deal. That happens. But my point is that until you actually take time off from work and get in the car and drive over there and spend an hour of your time to get there and be shut down in the first 3 minutes, you won't get it. Right? Or you get to the house and you find out later on that the husband's on the deed and he's not in the property. You won't forget to ask that question next time.
Right.
Like, who's on the deed? Right? So you want to get an education, you don't need to spend a bunch of money with me or any other guru or anything like that. Just get out and get in the houses and start doing what we're talking about. Just don't commit yourself to anything. Right? If somebody says that they think they want to do a deal, say, I got to go talk to my partner or my mentor and go find one, me or somebody else, and put the deal together. And worst case scenario is, you walk away and they'll be like, oh, that guy was a joke or whatever, and you'll never talk to him again. Right?
But you learn.
Number 9, fear of talking to sellers on the phone. That's another one, right? This is a simple one. Just text them. Don't call them. Just text them. You're worried about talking to people on the phone, just text them. Warm up to the seller with a text. When you feel comfortable, then call. Same thing like what we were doing before. We're going in the house. Practice with texting. Practice talking. Practice my scripts. Practice what you're going to say with texting. If you don't respond to them, what are they going to do? Come to your house and say you didn't answer my text? Right? Just practice with texting until you feel comfortable. Right? Which, by the way, Peter, we have a new course. If you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, go to top right-hand side, it says courses. It's I think it's like $37, and it shows you how to do this. Shows you how to use texting. We use Text Magic. It shows you how to use it, and it gives you the scripts and all that kind of stuff, and it's all there. Okay, or just go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/texting, and you'll see. I think it's $37. Right? It's the easiest way to beat fear in real estate or talking to sellers. It's just start texting them. Right? So let's do a rundown. Ready? And then we're going to get out of here.
Okay.
Don't put money into a deal and you won't lose. Don't put deeds in your name, then you won't have to have legal ramifications. Do lease options and option agreements, or assign them. Use texting, not calling until you feel comfortable. Practice being in the house and don't intend to buy it, and blame all the wrong things and all your deficiencies on your partner or your mentor. Don't even take responsibility for it. Oh, my partner didn't tell me that. Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. Oh, my partner told me to say that. He must have been mistaken. Blame it on your VA, my virtual assistant. Blame it on your sister. Blame it on your mother. I don't care. Blame it on somebody else. Take it off of you. Right? They don't know the difference. Right? Use legalguide.com or legalzoom.com. I know Legal Guide's $39 a month. My wife uses them. They're great. She had trouble with something. She needed help. She called. They did a 45-minute consultation from her with an attorney in Connecticut. 45 minutes they spent with her on the phone for $39. Okay?
Nice.
Good company. You got questions about all the paperwork and the legal stuff? Just go to legalguide.com. Okay? Listen to more of these podcasts. There's a lot of data here. All right? Use my calculator. There's another thing. I created this calculator during the pandemic, right? And you take between 4 and 6 comps, you put them in the calculator, and it generates 3 offers for you. I also give you an offer pack, which is a letter of intent, which is an 8-page document that you can send to so you take the numbers from the calculator, you put them in the offer pack, and it generates a letter of intent that's 8 pages long that has all the frequently asked questions, everything in there. Right? I also, in that $37, give you text scripts and phone scripts, and I give you my 1-page lease option agreement that you can sign with them. And you get a free video, which you don't have to buy anything on how this works. It's a 42-minute video on how I find the sellers and how I do it all virtually right from my desk. 42 minutes for free. All you have to do is go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/virtual. You can watch the video. If you want to buy the forms, you can buy the forms. If you don't, I don't know why you wouldn't buy the forms, because they're $37 and they're way cheap. But that package alone could have you buying houses or at least making offers by the end of the week. Right?
Yeah. True that.
So here's another one, Peter. I say the best for last. So fear. You know what fear is? You talking to you. Fear is you talking to you. So here's what you do. Start writing those conversations on a piece of paper. So whatever you're telling yourself, start writing them down. Right? It's you talking to you. So start writing them down. Then tomorrow or the next day or on Friday or when you're drunk, read them back to yourself. In fact, you should read them back to yourself every morning. Like, this is what I told myself yesterday. And after a while, you're going to start realizing you're being ridiculous with yourself. Just start writing down your conversations. If you're really ballsy, which you probably won't be, have somebody else read it, like your mother or your cousin, your spouse, your kid. You got a 10-year-old kid? Have them read it to you as a homework assignment. Here, somebody gave me this, sweetheart. I found this in a house. Can you read it to me? And the kid will be like, what is it? I don't know. I found it. I'm not sure. Have the 10-year-old kid read it to you. And if it's still a problem for you after you've done that, then you probably have an objectionable reason to go handle that problem. But I promise you, a vast percent, like 95% of it or more, is just going to be ridiculousness that you're telling yourself. And when you hear it out loud, you're going to be like, why am I thinking that? That's bullshit. Bill said this, or Pete said that, or my Uncle Joe said this, or my father did that. You know, I listened to Imus on TV the other day, and he said this, and you know, whatever. You'll start to unwind those conversations you're having in your head, and you'll start realizing that they're bullshit. Right? Does that make sense?
Sure does.
And then the last thing I have to say is this. Go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. There are scripts there. They're free. All you got to do is log on to the page. They're free. Print the for sale by owner script. Print it. Physically print it. Get yellow paper, just like this. See this yellow piece of paper? Right? Yellow legal paper. And hand write that script minimum 10 times. Hand write it verbatim a minimum of 10 times. And you will start to absorb that script. You'll start to absorb the flow of what you should be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do as I tell you and you write it 10 times, minimum of 10 times, and you should probably do it, you know, in a mirror, speaking to yourself a minimum of 10 times, you're going to know more than the average investor ever thought of. You're going to know more than most people around you. More importantly, you'll have confidence that you can at least flip the switch and repeat these words. Just handwrite them 10 times. Go stand in front of a mirror and read it to yourself 10 times. And then just go talk to somebody. Go pretend to buy a house. Act like the guys on Wall Street and pretend to buy stocks with no commitment. Just kind of do it, you know, on a piece of paper and just pretend like you're buying the stocks and keep tracking. You'll be telling me stories later on like, I could have bought this house or I could have bought that stock. Right? And if it turns into a deal, send a support chicken in or do something like that, and we'll see if we can help you. That's it. So please, 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 if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, top right-hand side, it says proof it works. Please leave me a testimonial. You can leave a video. You can leave an audio. You can write one. Please do that. I read them all the time. Everybody else reads them. There's a lot of them on there. In fact, they're trying to get me to change that page because it takes so long for it to load because there's so many videos and so many testimonials on there. But I like seeing them, so I'm not going to change it. But go there. You know, subscribe to the podcast. I was supposed to do this at the beginning of the show. I forgot to do that. I'm going to have to start doing this from now on. If you're listening to this podcast on a phone or wherever you want, scroll down in the description section, and the link for the free stuff is in there. So from now on, as of this podcast forward, if you're looking to get any of my free stuff, just go to the description of wherever the podcast is on your phone or on your computer or on your iPad. Just go to where the description is, and there's a link in there. Just click on that link, and it'll take you to the free stuff page.
Good one, Bill.
Okay? Or take you to your website.
That makes it easy.
Also, you can, if you don't know how to leave a review, you can click on that, and on the website, it'll show you where to go get a review or leave a review. So just go down into the description of wherever you listen to this podcast, and just click on the link, and you'll be all set. Okay, Peter?
Good one. Good one.
So we're way over time. Well, not actually. We're about 5 minutes over because we usually do 90 minutes. If you have any questions, please send in a support ticket. I will gladly help you. In the meantime, take my advice on fear and isolate and remove fear quickly so you can start doing some creative deals and make some money. Anything you have to add, Peter?
No, I think that sums it up pretty well. The only thing I could say is, if you are afraid, tough. Go do it anyways.
Exactly.
I'm serious. Like, the definition of courage is not like, oh, he had no fear and he just forged ahead into the nest of the enemy and shot. No, you're afraid, but you do it anyways. That's something to be proud of. I was afraid, scared out of my mind, and I did it anyways. Make yourself proud of yourself. If you're a little fear, it's okay. You know you're alive. Go do it anyway. You'll have less and less.
All your money, all your freedom, everything you want in life is on the other side of that fear.
It's a good one.
Just over the fear or through the fear, on the other side of that fear is everything you ever wanted.
I want to ask that little redhead to dance with me. Should I go over there?
We're not going there. We're not going there. The redheads. All right, guys, over and out. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you for being here.